Hi, Lisa. Thanks for emailing me with your Excel questions. I love this sort of thing where we get to dig in and have a problem and try to find a solution. So in this video, I'm going to tackle your first scenario that you sent, and I'm probably going to tell you a bunch of information that you already know, but I just want to make sure to cover my bases, and it also sort of helps me to think through what's going on. Okay, so if I understand the scenario correctly, you have a workbook and you want to be able to move existing sheets into a separate existing workbook, and you want to be able to record a macro to do this for you. So I have a sheet open here, a book open, and the book has multiple sheets in it. And this is where I'm going to store my macro. And then I already have open the other sheet where I'm going to send the other book, where I'm going to send the sheet to. Okay, so I'm going to go back here to my original book. All right, so let's give it a go. Fingers crossed. I'm going to hit record macro, and I'm going to name this one testing, and I'm going to click OK. And the first thing I want you to do is I want you to click File and Save As. Macros need to be able to understand the context in which they're working. And so I want you to choose Save As, not just Save, but Save As, and I'm going to choose my location here. We're doing this because we need the macro to understand the context of the two books and how they sit in relationship to one another. So, and you know, a part of what, like I don't work for Microsoft, so I don't know everything about Excel. So I'm just doing this to try to ensure that the macro runs. We'll see, we'll see. All right, so I've named my book Enrollment Summer. I'm gonna hit save. Because I'm doing save as on an existing book, it says, do you really want to replace it? And by the way, notice that it's a macro enabled. I need to have that selected. And I'm gonna say, yes, I really do mean to save as. I'm going to hop over to the other book, and I'm going to do that same thing. File. Oh, sorry. Be patient. File. Save as. I'm going to choose the location. And for me, I'm saving both files in the same folder so that they're sitting right next to each other. Now, because of this, and remember, I'm doing this while the macro is recording. So the macro is recording these actions. And so from this point forward, I cannot move and I cannot rename either sheet because the macro is always going to point to these things. So I can't move them, can't rename them. So just make a mental note of that. All right, and I'm going to use the same name. Slide this over a little bit, click save. Again, it says, are you sure? We're going to say yes, we're sure. All right, now back here in the original book, actually, I don't know if it matters what cell you're active on, but I want to talk for a minute about the macro actions that we're recording. So I am active on sheet 1, and I'm going to right click on sheet 1. So the macro, because it's recording this action, well, actually the action it's recording is the move or copy. So go ahead and choose move or copy, but it's always going to look for that sheet name, sheet 1. Right, because I'm saying move this sheet, so it's always going to identify that sheet name. We'll see why this is important in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to choose the other book. I'm going to say whatever, choose your other book, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it's going to move it over there. And then from this point, now I'm just thinking, I'm just going to hit save here, because we already did the save as, and then I'm going to stop recording. I'm trying to remember all the little tricks to macros, right? There's so many little things that if this doesn't work, I'll just tell you another little trick that you can do on your own is that, so we have multiple steps happening here, and that error message or any error message can come up with any given steps. So in order to get your macro to work, if you're getting error messages, do one step at a time. Do the save as, record that in a macro, and then run it and make sure it runs. Then do the next step, record it in a macro, make sure it, right? Isolate every step so that you can pinpoint where the error is occurring. Okay, now we want to see if our macro is going to run, right? But this little guy is named sheet 2. I know it won't work because it has to point to sheet 1. So I'm just going to rename this sheet 1 to get the macro to work. So I'm going to call this sheet 1. Okay, and then so you need to think about your scenario as well. And are you going to spend time renaming sheets just to get the macro to work? Is there a way, if you're getting data, can you always get it in to sheet one so that you have the name so that the macro works? Just think about those things. All right, okay, and then I'm going to run the macro. All right, lucky rabbit's foot, right? You can say I've been playing around with this a little bit, but the one we recorded in the video is called testing. So I'm going to run that. Now you're going to get this error message. Remember, we did save as, and we got the, it's not an error message. We got this message. Are you sure you want to replace it? Yeah, and so you have to click yes in the macro because that's a part of the macro is to say save as, and we did it twice. So click yes again. Then it moves it. Let's go over to the other sheet. No error message. This is awesome. It's done. No error message. Okay, I'm just going to hop over to the other sheet because I want to show you one thing. Both sheets were named sheet 1, but notice what it does when it moves it, right? You can't have two sheets with the same name, so it just adds a little number 2. So that's my little advice to you. I'll cross my fingers for you in hopes that you get your macro to run, and then I'll move on and take a look at your second task. Okay, good luck.